down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, yep, it's the Savvy Radio Show / podcast / something for someone out there. So I have been hanging out with a phenomenal investor who can do the impossible. People say, I can't get into real estate because I have no money, or I have a 9-to-5 job and I can't do it. Well, first of all, if you have not listened to episode number 517, that's 517, you can go to the savvyradioshow.com or even shorter, savvypodcast.com, and check out Kurt Phillips and be inspired from 13 years in the industry of trucking / package delivery / the brown truck / UPS to financial freedom. This man has touched my heart in a lot of ways. And when you touch my heart in a lot of ways, man, I want to spend a lot of time with you. And this guy, you want to get to know Kurt Phillips. And so we were hanging out in Chattanooga, and he's like, man, I just raised another $110,000. What? With private money. And so if you listen to 517, you'll kind of get a perspective that real estate just paused for him and banks said no. And so let's dial back. A lot of people maybe have never heard that episode before, Kurt. So tell me, how did you fall into private money? How is this your thrust in your career today as a real estate investor? Tell me how you got to this point.
So we as in my wife and I, we're kind of a team investors, and we each bring our gifts to the table. And so when I say we, it's not, just some random person, it's my wife, but we had goals that we really wanted to reach in our real estate. I mean, we were chasing down financial freedom just like so many people, and we hadn't reached a point to where our real estate was really covering our expenses and covering itself, and we hadn't reached the lifestyle that we wanted. And like you kind of already said, the banks, they stopped lending to us. That was it. I mean, we had a deal under contract, and I walked in thinking that they were going to loan this money even after I had left my job. They flat out just said, no, we're not going to do it. And I kept getting no after no after no with banks. And
so Kurt, so when they were saying no, it didn't make sense because you were debt free, right? I mean, you had, and tell us how many assets you had at the time. And if you can, at that moment, can you kind of give us a perspective of what your cash flow was in that realm? Like you had so many units. How many units did you have?
So we were probably, we're 20 now, and we grew by 13 just last year alone. So I want to say we were probably at 8 units. Is probably pretty safe. We had 8 units, and then we also have 6 children. So it was one of those things where we had another business that kind of fell apart. You can listen to the previous episode and get that whole story. We had another business that kind of fell apart that we were counting on when I left my job. And so we had a couple of things working against us. I didn't have the W-2. My portfolio didn't quite carry enough weight to it. And we had 6 kids, and the banks like to see, they put a certain amount per kid of how much money it should take to raise that family. And so that was actually a ding against us. But we were debt free completely. My house was paid off. We had tons of equity in our rental properties. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was they just didn't see that we were a safe bet because of our children and because my portfolio didn't carry the weight yet.
So were you frustrated? Cause when I met you for the first time, I was like, that's ludicrous. You're lying to me. That's the golden rail for bankers, debt-free assets that are producing income. And it was ludicrous that you were getting denied. I mean, what was it going through in your mind? What did it feel like? Were you wanting to give up in this game, or did you feel lied to? You read these seminars or these articles and be debt-free, you're doing the dream, and then it put a halt on it.
Yeah, it was, I was angry. I would say it drove me harder because I wasn't going back to work. I did not want to get a job again. And I really wanted to experience this freedom. And so that drove me. But yeah, I realized that paying off my house was the dumbest thing, one of the dumbest decisions I ever made. I mean, I took $100,000 that I had cash and paid off my house. I even shed a tear over it. You know, we went into the bank. I brought all my children with me to make the last payment. I mean, it was this big to do. And then further along, you know, fast forward 6 to 12 months, and I start looking back and I'm like, man, I wish I had that $100,000 back. You know, it's wrapped up in my house. Now, we did end up getting a line of credit on the house. But even so, I would rather have had that cash without the interest from the HELOC. So it never made me want to quit necessarily, but it was discouraging. It was because I didn't know another way, honestly, Stephen. I just didn't know. For me, I was still stuck in the traditional mindset of you go to a bank and you get a loan and you put down 20% and then that's how you purchase the property. And so when that was shut down for me, mentally, I was thinking, holy crap, what am I going to do? This is the only way that I know how to invest. And I wasn't ready to just hang it up and be done yet.
So, I mean, your normal way of investing when you got into the game, you normally put down 20% down on every transaction at that time?
Every single one, yes. Yep, that's the only way that I knew.
Now, you've done some private money recently. Did you put 20% down?
No, I didn't.
I mean, it's just classic. It's just like our minds are, you know, I'm starting to read Unscripted from MJ DeMarco, and, you know, he's very coarse in what he's saying, but we're just living a lie. We're living someone else's philosophy, someone else's rules by a game that we don't know, and we all comply. All the time I hear people, they want to be in real estate, but, you know, I don't have the 20% down. And you just proved it by default that you could do a deal with no money and uses someone else's money. Tell us how you fell into private money. That's the title of the podcast. I fell into private money. I was an average schmo with the 20% down. I'm trying to figure this out. Like, I'm trying to write out a good title here.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the 20% down. I didn't even know private money was an option. Didn't even know it existed. So one of the best things that we did is we started coaching. We started coaching with someone further along, which happened to be you. We were coaching with you, and you know, at the time we had 10 units, 8 units, something like that.
Right.
And I think, you know, we just saw that you had achieved the results that we hadn't gotten there yet. And so we recognized, and throughout my life, I'd had mentors and coaches. And so for me, it was kind of a natural progression. Like, yes, I know that I want someone who's further along. And so we started to battle through this, getting banking and bank funding and finding that it wasn't working. And so you encouraged us to really dive into private money. And so that's what we did. I basically just got the whole concept of private money around the neck and just started studying it like crazy because I knew that I needed to learn it. And so we ended up, and really, it's really that simple. Our business was halted. We were not growing. And I had properties that I had a package deal then. We moved on, got a package deal under contract. I had no idea how I was going to fund them. No clue. And so that's when we started.
And I remember, and I was like, don't worry, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't worry. and you're like, I don't want to lose this deal. I told these people that we're going to close on this day. And you actually knew the sellers, right?
I graduated with them from high school.
And so the pressure was on, like physically, just in your heart was pounding that you had to close. So it forced you to push yourself. Would that be a way? Would you encourage that for someone else today, or take a different route? I mean, did that cause you to perform? I mean, I guess to get you out of your shell. I mean, there had to be some kind of a defining paradigm shift at that moment where you had to push yourself, or you're going to lose this deal. Was that the moment?
It was. So it taught me to ask the question, how can I make this deal work? Instead of just looking at it and saying, okay, the traditional way that I know isn't going to work, so therefore the deal is going to have to fall through. Then it forced me to, and I tell you, that's a question that I drill into my clients as well that I coach, some of the people that I coach, that I tell them, as soon as you can get yourself to the point you can ask the question, how can I make this deal work? Then you'll start thinking outside of the box. And that's what happened to me. It was a watershed moment for me. Now, when I get something under contract, I still, it still raises my level of, just my anticipation or my anxiety a little bit. Cause I'm like, okay, how am I going to close this? But I already know that I've done it enough times when I didn't necessarily have the funding lined up. After, when I've got something in contract. So as far as do I recommend that? It depends on your personality. It depends on your drive. I mean, if you get, if you know that you can perform under pressure, then I say, get it under contract and figure it out, because you'll be forced to ask the question. If you want to maintain your integrity and your character, you're gonna solve the problem.
Now
So
you mentioned watershed. What moment? What does that mean exactly? Sorry, I'm not from Ohio.
So the watershed moment was, the light bulb went on.
Well, what does that mean? Like it's raining on your watershed? Like you have well water? I'm like, come on, buddy. What does that mean?
So basically we were at a standstill. I mean, our business had come to a halt. And for me mentally, I had also hit the glass ceiling, that I wasn't thinking outside of the box, that I was still stuck, like you said before, stuck in the same way of thinking that this is how it's always been done. This is how real estate investors invest in properties, as they put 20% down to do the banks. And so that was it for me. And so when I say the watershed, I don't know where that saying comes from, but it was a moment where I realized that the sky was the limit. That when I found private money, I realized that my business was now the only cap on it was my courage. The only cap was my courage to be willing to have that conversation with the next person, was willing to find money for the next person. Somebody says, I'm thinking about lending, for me to walk through that door and ask them specific questions and lead them through the process of someone who's maybe never done it before. And so when I realized that my cap on my business was my courage and my willingness to learn, that was it for me. That changed everything. And that's how we grew so quickly as we did, without a job, without a W-2 job. We added 13 units without a job, and we just added 4 more just this year. So
this is phenomenal success, man. I'm super stoked to know you, and I can't wait to see and hear where this is going to take you. And I love this. My cap on my business was my courage. That should be a quote that you should put on your book someday on private money. So we were just hanging out in Chattanooga. You showed up like you had a glow on your face. I'm assuming you just took a shower, but you were like, I just raised another 110,000. Walk us through that process. Cause like, we're all like, yeah, you get coached by VanCauwenbergh. Yeah, whatever. Like I'm somebody, someone said this the other day, like I'm unapproachable. That is BS, mother effers. Whoever thinks that, naysayer, Satan, that is not true. I am approachable. If you're respectful, I will talk to you. If you're a jerk, I won't talk to you. So you're probably a jerk, and you're probably the one that says that you don't like me. But I love everyone, and I'll help anyone. Love everyone and help anyone. So that's me. Let's go to you. You were glowing like you just got married or some crap. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Yeah, man, I just bought a duplex or something. I'm like, oh, good for you. And I did it with private money. Oh, good. What? How much? 110.
Yeah.
So tell me, how, like, first of all, you went 90-0 in a short amount of time. I mean, you just learned private money within less than a year, and now you're at 200 and something thousand. How did this last 110,000 raise go? And what was your thinking? Obviously, your courage is on fire, but give us some pointers or give us some perspective on how it all went about.
Yeah, so just real quick, it's two houses, two single-family houses on a parcel, and we got them under contract for $110,000. The lady had them appraised the year before for $155,000, and since put on roof and gutters and everything else, and she just needed to unload them. So just your typical kind of deal where you had a very motivated seller that was just begging for an offer, and so we put in an offer and came to terms on that. So at that point, when I got it under contract, I had no money lined up. Like, I had no way to close the deal, which I had done several times before. So I wasn't exactly freaking out like I was the first time I did that. But we got him under contract, and then I drew up my my proposal. So pictures of the property, the specs of the property, how much I was asking for, what my exit strategy was to get the money back to the lender. So kind of a brochure, if you will, an email to send out. But I didn't just throw out that email. I have a list, a Google Sheets that has specific people on there, and some of them have numbers by their names of lenders. Some of them have numbers beside their names of how much they are looking to lend, and many of them are blank. I don't know how much. I don't even know if they're willing to lend money. They're just people that I would call, right? And so I targeted 3 people that I thought were really ready to lend. And I had to pick up the phone and call them and let them know about the deal. I didn't just email them. I wanted the personal touch, so I called them. I talked to him. The first person I called, he said, I'll have to look at my funds and think about it. But he really liked the deal, but he wasn't sure if he could lend on this one. And then the second person I called was just a friend of mine who I've known for, 8 years, who's thought about getting into the real estate game, and has the cash and a line of credit on his house, has had it all, the cash and the line of credit lined up for years, but has just never really been able to pull the trigger on purchasing a property himself. And we've kind of went back and forth a little bit where I've told him, well, you can actually lend that money and get a return. We go out to dinner with our families and stuff, and so we'll talk business. And so when I called him, it wasn't really out of the blue, but it kind of was, because we haven't had that conversation for months. And so I just explained to him the deal, and I told him, the percentage I could give to him on this deal and your payment. I figured out what his payment would be, so I could tell him, this is what I would pay you every single month, no matter what. And he was all over it. I mean, he's like,
so tell us a little bit about the guy. Like, I mean, keep him private, but like, what was his day job? Does he have houses himself? Profile him.
Sure.
And okay, then I have another question. Just be thinking about that in the back of your mind. What words do you think were said that closed the deal? Like, I love that you already had your payment involved. Like, hey, I'm going to pay you. What's that payment? Do you know remember that number?
Yeah, it's $916 a month.
So you just you just came across saying, hey, would you mind loaning me $110,000? I can give you a $916 a month for the next 2 years or so. Is that how that conversation went? And then we'll go back into profiling the guy. Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of opened it up with, I let him know I'm calling about business, first of all. When I say, I say, hey man, how's it going? Well, hey, if I caught you at a good time, I'm actually calling to talk business. And he said, yeah, man, let's talk. And so I wanted to let him know right away that why I'm calling. I think that's really important to be intentional about that. And so that really opened it up for me to just tell him the whole story. Hey, I just got this deal under contract. I shared a little bit about the story about how I got under contract. And he's like, wow, that's awesome, man.
And this is all over the phone.
All over the phone. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm telling him about this deal, about how I got under contract. And I said, so, what I'm looking at right now, I said, I don't know if it's something you'd be interested in, but if you'd be interested in deploying some of your capital, and, I can on this properties, and I can give you a, X percent of return, which would equal, $916 a month that we would pay to you no matter what. And then I just kind of went into the terms a little bit about, it would be for 12 months with, we could always extend it if we mutually agreed on that. I even shared with them, if for some reason you needed to get your money out early, I would need, 45 minutes heads up. And that's not a guarantee I can do that in 45 minutes, but I can promise you that I'll do everything I can, so that's
45 days or 45 minutes. What'd you?
45 days. So if for some reason he says, I need my money back somehow, whatever. Then I say, okay, we got to give me 45 days heads up. And then I'll do my best to either replace you with another private lender or refinance or whatever. He really liked that. Like for him, that was the selling point.
So options.
Options, man, that was huge for him. That when I said the 45
Man, I'm taking
days,
notes. I'm taking notes.
Whatever. You've taught me everything I know.
No, I love. Here's the things I got so far, man, and keep going. I don't want to interrupt you, but it's so exciting. Like, one, you just set the tone on the phone conversation with, "Hey, is this a good time? Do you mind if we want to talk about business?" Then you just kind of eased in with, "I got this deal. I'm really excited about it," but you didn't come across that you needed him or desperation. You're just another guy on his list. Hey, I was just thinking of you, and hey, by the way, would you, and the cool thing is that you knew prior that he really wants to be in real estate, so he has the interest in real estate, but he may not have the forthright or the kahunas to say yes, but he has the resources, and everybody wants to make $916 a month. I do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to him since, and I mean, he's super stoked about this, to get
It's
that.
passive.
It's truly passive. And he sees that. And so he's really excited about it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so excited. So then you gave him an option. That's another great point where, a lot of people think that they loan you money. And I think a lot of old private lender borrowers, private money people will lock it up for 6 years or 10 years, and they're trapped. I think if you come across with, like-minded, listen, I need you, you need me, we can make this work. If and I'm open to refinance out or get another private lender involved if you need to use the cash, which most people don't. That's the great thing. If you call the elephant in the room, you're fat. We all want money. We want money. We all want to if you just call it what it is, please just give me at least 45 days. That's usually what it takes for me to refinance out with a bank or for me to find another private lender that's ready at that moment. I think that's priceless. Mm-hmm. I think that was ingenious. All right. So you gave the guy the options on the phone, and then did you close it? How did you, solidify the money? And, was it hard for you to say 110? Did he have any objectives? Did he say, well, why not just 100? Or was it just that easy?
It really was. So, and it really was that easy. And one of the ways that you kind of hit on this just when you were talking there, that I use the word partner on this. I just use that word to partner on this deal. Now I was clear about, I'm handling all the man. I'm clear about all that, but I use the word partner instead of a borrower lender terminology. And that was just my own personal preference, maybe on this call, that seemed to click because we are partners on this. I mean, they're the lender and I'm the borrower, but they're entrusting me with their money. So I
say that to my banker. I mean, my banker is my partner. It's just like God, he is like we tie because he's my partner. I could not do this if it wasn't. My banker is my partner. My wife is my partner.
Exactly.
People forget that it's okay to say the word partner. It doesn't mean that they have ownership. And I think that would be another phenomenal podcast. It's just clarifying or learning to clarify with other people, because people just get confused on terminology. Totally. Or partner, that means that you owe me or you own me. No, we're partners. You and I, we're partners in this game of real estate.
Absolutely. So, so as far as to answer your question for the closing up, I sent him the email. So I only sent out 2 emails to the 2 people I talked to. I didn't send out any more emails other than that. So I talked to him on the phone, and then I sent the email. And so before we got off the phone, I said, hey, if I let him know my time frames. I just said, we need to close by this date. So if you could get back to me in the next day or 2, that would be really helpful for me. And he said, absolutely, man, I can let you know tomorrow. Let me just talk to my wife and make sure, but this all looks good. And I told him, okay, I'm going to send you an email with all the stuff that we just talked about and all the numbers broken down of how much your payment would be, how much you'll make in the 12 months so that guys can look at it together and you can pray over it and look at it. And he said, awesome. And the next day he shot me a text. And it was, man, I could tell you the feeling that went over me, because literally I got up the next morning and I'm looking at my phone like, oh man, because I'm ready to get this thing rolling, and
so that's why you were levitating.
It was. And so when he texted me and said, we're good to go, it was like a celebration, man. It was really exciting. And I think that'll always be exciting.
Were you ever nervous, like when you were doing the numbers? Like, did you have any fear at all come over you? Or, I mean, you're a very confident individual. You're a speaker. You know, you have 20 units. I mean, you already resonate with confidence. Was there any insecure at all in this process? I mean, this was only like your third deal, right? Third private
money deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was there any nervousness at all?
There was, just because I hold myself to a standard that if I get something in contract, I really want to close on it. I really, and for me, it's my character's on the line. And so that was really my nervousness. Is like, you know, if both of these guys say, hey, we're not ready to lend this time, I still had other people that I was going to call. And so I'm not necessarily, you know, when I say the courage is my cap, I'm not the guy that I'm not going to hammer out 20 calls and I'm not that guy. Like, yeah, I have to really build it up like, okay, Kurt, all right, I'm going to call this guy.
Well, the thing is that the thing is, a lot of people don't know, and I need to get this clear. This guy, you're tenacious. Like, you don't, like, when you're committed, you just keep going until they say no. No, it hurts. Yeah, like if you got 20 no's, but you're going to call, I know you're going to show up tomorrow. And I mean, that comes from your work ethic with your family, but it's also driving the brown truck too. It's the same damn job every day. Yeah. I mean, it's I can't wait for people to hear you speak in a week or so, because I mean, just the tenacity of going to the same job, wearing the same clothes, driving the same way, getting talked to the same way, and it's never good enough. And you've hit your dream of driving a brown truck. Everybody should be excited. And it takes tenacity just to do that, really, in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people thought I was crazy for leaving that job. I mean, they said, you did what? You left that job? They're paying you how much an hour? And, and
look where you're at today. I mean, it's just phenomenal what people can do with real estate. And let's talk about that. What are you going to talk about in April in Oklahoma City? Can you give us some insight on, some tips or tricks or things that you're going to talk about and get us all juiced up?
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about private money and how to get private money. I'm right in the thick of it. This isn't obviously something that I've done 10 years ago. Like, I am in the middle of raising money. So we've got over 200,000 that we have invested with private lenders right now. And I have at least another 200 that I have confirmed. It's amazing that just after this deal, we had another over $100,000 that were committed to us to say, hey, we're looking to lend this much. So whenever you find a deal, we're very interested in working with you.
How cool is that? I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm already working with another private lender. The pull, it's called the push and pull method. I want to be with you. Not right now. Yeah. But we'll get to it later. Yeah, that's awesome. So you already got another 200,000. So your big problem right now, today, March 26, 2019, is to find more deals. It's not about finding more money.
It is. And I never dreamed I would be in this.
A year ago, you had unlimited deals and no income. Yeah. I mean, no funding. No funding.
And so that's what I'm going to talk about, because that's my passion. Because when we started to use private money, it literally changed my life. I mean, because my business, this was our freedom. And so when we found private money, it changed everything, not just our business. It really did change our life. And I don't use that term loosely, because absolutely. It really did. And so we're going to be talking about, there's a lot of different ways to maybe raise private money, but we're going to talk about how you and I have really hammered this down. We spent a lot of time on this, and I really want to share people with an organic approach, an approach that you can really make progress on this daily, that you can set up some real, one is a mindset, having that mindset of, the whole idea of, I remember looking for a truck. I was looking for a truck. I really liked blue trucks. And so everywhere I'm driving, I'm looking at the Chevys and the Fords. So there's a blue Ford and there's a blue Chevy. And all of a sudden, blue trucks are everywhere. I mean, they were everywhere I looked, and I didn't notice them before, how many people owned blue trucks. I don't know why it was blue. It's just the way there was. And it's the same deal with private money. You get what you focus on. And if you're focused on raising money, opportunities are going to really they're going to feel like they organically come up, but they don't. They're coming up because you're focusing on it. Right. You're actually looking for it. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about how to raise private money. And then even, I'm going to share some of the deals that we've done, obviously, and some of the conversations we've had, and, what to say and how to put it, and even some of the terms, that you want to have kind of pre-filtered in your hopper, that how much you can give. And there's never, if you want to go 6%, that's great. But you want to know how high you can go, and you want to be able to have the confidence that when you're walking into a conversation, you can talk intelligently to this potential lender. And so that's really what I'm going to be talking about, how to use private money to grow your business to freedom. If you want to know, that's it right there.
Man, I'm excited. I can't wait to see you. So ladies and gentlemen, go to investorweekend.com in Oklahoma City. Yes, you can drive from Indiana. Yes, you could drive from Ohio. People do it every day. And so can you. Tickets are only $99. That includes Friday night roundtable. Kurt's going to be hosting a roundtable. This is where you get to just ask any question point blank, and he's going to ask it. He's a human being. He's going to be on stage sharing all the things that he went through. But that's April 12th and 13th, 2019, Oklahoma City. Go to investorweekend.com. Kurt, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy raising private money.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate you, brother, and thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.